Guy who I have known for the better part of 30 years. He inspired me then. He inspires me now. He will inspire you. This is a master class. And you get it for free. And I'm telling you, this guy speaks and he gets paid a lot of money. And he wouldn't tell you that, but I am. His name's Marc Megna. He played in the NFL. He now owns a gym in Miami, the number one gym in Miami called Anatomy. And there's a movie about his life, a documentary called Just a Kid from Fall River. You can get it on Amazon, but you can get Marc right here, right now. It's great to see you, dude. I'm just laying eyes on you. It's wonderful.
I can't believe that.
We're ready to go. We're just going to flow into this, all right?
Oh, hey, listen, conversation is the best way, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I can't believe you said that on the air about Matt the other day. I was crying.
Dude, we get done, all right? For those of you who don't know.
I already know.
I'm up in the mountains with all my boys from Richmond. Yeah.
You're lucky. Hold on. You're lucky the other personalities weren't there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
they'd still be in front of that TV.
I had all we could handle, and we get done a basketball game. You know, they're drinking. I'm not drinking. They're having fun, and Davis all of a sudden starts talking about some streaming where we can watch. I mean, it's 11 Eastern, and he's like, "Yeah, we can still get some. I know a little place we can get some horses. We can get some horses up." And he's like, "Sister, who do you like? You like the 4-horse?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go with the 4." And we're betting on horses. It's at 11 at night over in like Puerto Vallarta. I don't even know where they are. You know.
I've never seen a group of guys try so hard to bring in bad habits into their life.
Yeah, it's like you got to work every day at it.
I mean, these guys are living their lives like their plane is going down. And I know there's something to be said for that, certainly, but not in perpetuity, I'll tell you that much.
So I want to go back. So it was funny because we talk about this weekend. I'm with these guys on this podcast. Basically, I had to start a whole podcast for you because you don't have a drug and alcohol problem. So I couldn't get you on the one about sobriety, but I got you one about basically important people in my life, important people in the world of sports, and inspirational stories. I had Jeff Pearlman on here months ago, and he talked about Bo Jackson, the book that he wrote about Bo Jackson. And Marc, I'm not going to make the direct comparison between you and Bo Jackson because nobody wants to hear that. But there is a similar like folklore about you when we're up there this weekend and we're talking about you as a player. And do you remember when Marc jumped over the line of scrimmage with one arm and ripped down that running back or that quarterback from Northeastern? Or do you remember when Marc wouldn't stop, in mat drills? You remember when he wouldn't? I mean, there is a word of mouth because we didn't have all the tools we have today to capture and record everything. So a lot of it was word of mouth, and it remains that today. Just like you hear the crazy stories about Bo Jackson hitting a ball that went 500 feet that hit a tower. It's kind of, and it's important to talk this through with you and talk a little bit about your story.
Man, dude, I know it's cliche and corny, but I really do appreciate you having me on just because you're such a huge presence, energy, and dear friend in my life. So in all seriousness, thank you. But, I don't know what do you want to hear? I mean, I feel like this story's been beaten to death, but, who doesn't like talking about themselves? But, you said the Bo Jackson thing. I mean, dude, first of all, there's obviously no comparison. Bo Jackson wasn't that good. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I mean, I see the thing all the time, that tag with him with the baseball bat over his shoulders, and I always laugh and I go, there's very few people who understand what that means to average like 5 yards a carry and then hit 32 home runs and be all pro in 2 sports. Like you do it once in your lifetime, you're a superstar. He did it all the time in 2 sports, right? So, I mean, that guy in his prime, 6 feet, 235, 232 pounds, 4'3", and they say folklore is 6'2", 4'2", 40. That's unbelievable. And I'm not so sure he's lying when he says, I didn't really work out.
On grass, too, we're talking about, right?
I mean, but we saw it, right? We saw him in I don't know if this is true, but what I do now with training and coaching and biomechanics, like when you look at how he hurt his hip, you know how he hurt his hip, right?
No,
A
tell me.
normal
Yeah.
a normal person, so a guy who's running down the sidelines grabbed him by the ankles and he tried to break the tackle. So he vaulted his hips forward. He said, do you know how much force you have to be able to produce from your hips to dislocate your hip? Like it's impossible. Like the amount of force that it can take in general. That's why people have hip issues and get the artificial hips over a lifetime of 40, 50 years. He did it on one play, right? So the amount of force you have to generate to dislocate and just crush that, that head, that acetabulum. I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but I mean, it's
You can never,
unbelievable.
and it's an injury that he was never the same from. Now, I want to go back, jump back into your story now, and because this brings us back to the beginning. A lot of people don't know this story, Mark, and I don't think they can hear it enough because, and I'll speak for you a little bit. Stop me if this isn't true. But as a kid, that Bo Jackson with the bat over those shoulder pads, the Nike ad. You're a chubby kid in Fall River.
Yeah.
I mean, people
Yeah.
look at you now. You're an Adonis. By the way, the movie is Just a Kid. You are. The movie is Just a Kid from Fall River. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it on Apple TV. And I would, not just because I'm featured in it, but I would tell people you got to check it out. I mean, it's unbelievable. And we're going to get into some of that story. But as a kid, you're looking at that poster. And what's going through your mind as somebody who's going to school in Fall River, a tough area, outside of Boston, and you're getting bullied a little bit. People are calling you the names that they call kids that might have a little excess weight. How are you when you look at that poster? What are you thinking? Or images like that, all those kick-ass Sports Illustrated posters we grew up with.
I mean, you're good at what you do, Pete, because that's a great question. Just to set the backstory a little bit, first of all, I always say this, like who I am today, and I don't want to disrupt the flow, but who I am today is very different. I mean, of course, I still have those those energies or those pieces of me in my back pocket, but at the end of the day, like what I grew up in and what I experienced as a young person fueled like my journey and my path, right? So I was, because of like the things that I experienced, my dad was gone at a very young age. I didn't even know him.
And you
And
were open with that about that with us
yeah,
at a young age. You told us when we were at Richmond
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I was very like, I mean, I was very like that crushed me as a young person. Like that was very hard for me. And then it was even harder because I didn't get to see my mom a lot because she was working so much and spent a lot of time alone, and I study personalities now. And I'll tell you that, I'm very much like an empath personality, right? And I'll tell you that I spent lot of time thinking, and I was trying to figure like, why is my life like this? Why am I going through these things? And I see all these kids, and I was jealous of other kids with their dads, and I was like, man, that's something that I wish I had. And I had an extraordinary mom who worked very hard to make sure that we had food on the table, but the stuff I was going through because I was an obese kid, and people don't look, people don't want to believe it, right? Because they see what I do now and what and how I function now, and they're like, why is that? And I'm like, well, the history is I was very obese. When you're an obese kid, kids suck basically, and I was
Yeah.
made fun of every day, which means I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to go to any school events. I avoided people. I was very shy because whenever I could be myself, I was taught to, it's not okay because you should be embarrassed because of the way you look. And then I was trying to find myself. So when I look at those posters on the wall, I was like, man, I didn't want to play sports because I liked sports. I tell this story a lot, Pete. I would go to family functions and you'd have, at the time, women in one room and you'd have the men in another room. And the men in the other room were around a little TV and they were all watching the Patriots. They were watching the Celtics. They were watching the Red Sox. And the way athletes looked, they looked like superheroes to me. They were fit looking, they had muscle. They looked like, these cartoon characters, superhuman. And I quickly figured out that there's a reason that all these men are sitting around this television in awe of these athletes. So it wasn't necessarily about the sport. It was that they commanded respect very quickly by a lot of people. And that's something that I wanted very much. And I started to put two and two together, that if I played a sport and I was good at it, maybe I could have the respect of most certainly my family and other people. And that's what I really wanted more than anything.
Same thing. It's same thing for me. My dad growing up, when he came in our house, if the news was on, you had to shut up and watch the news. And announcers for ball games. They were important people, and people really didn't talk when they were talking. And I was trying to, I'm pining for attention from my dad, who was a great dad, but stone cold.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, you met him. I mean, he was sweet
Great
to
man.
you, yeah,
Great
because yeah. But I mean, go home with the guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Everybody's got that story. But no, so I totally can relate to that. When you are coming up as a kid, where do you get the motivation? Did you almost play and work out angry? Because it's clear that this is, a lot of times passion comes from anger, rage. I mean, did that fuel you?
I mean, I think you certainly know the answer to that already. You've seen parts of my life, a lot, foundational parts of my life. But look, there's a combination of things. I said it before. I didn't like that I didn't have a dad. I didn't like that I couldn't see my mom. I didn't like seeing my mother cry because she had to work several jobs. I didn't like living in a small apartment where we were standing on each other. I hated it. It made me feel look, I don't care what anyone says. Of course, there were a lot of people doing that in the United States. I didn't see a lot of people doing that on TV. I didn't see a lot of people doing that, in the nicer neighborhoods of Fall River, because there are great neighborhoods in Fall River. And I was like, shit, this sucks. And it pissed me off, right? So I was telling someone this the other day. I needed to find some way to channel that energy. And I remember, I'll never forget this. And I know this is the story for many people, but I remember watching TV and there was a movie on. And in the movie, there's a guy who is walking. He's basically like collects debts for bookies. And everyone makes fun of him and no one respects him. And you can see throughout the trajectory of the movie, everyone's making fun of him, but he feels like he has something special inside. And no one believes in him. And one day, a boxing coach, says, he's got something. He's gritty and he's tough. But the boxing coach gives him a lot of tough love. So they find a fight, and the fight is he's going to fight the heavyweight. The only reason he's fighting the heavyweight is because the heavyweight knows he can beat the crap out of him. Lo and behold, it doesn't go that way, right? And not only does it go the distance, but it was the toughest fight the heavyweight's ever had. And the heavyweight's like, holy moly, I barely made it out of that fight. Who is this guy? And basically, the underdog has convinced the world that he's legit. And when I saw that movie, just talking about it now, I got goosebumps, and I'm like, that's me. Like, that's who I am, right? And that's why it's such a legendary movie. We're talking about Rocky, obviously, that I was thinking Rocky is inside of everyone. Everyone, we all believe that we have something special and extraordinary inside. And when I saw that movie, I was like, I can do that.
Aside from your mom, who was the first person that looked at you like Mickey looked at Rocky, that was like, there's something in you that we can pull out of you?
Well, I think there was like kind of stages of that. My mom used to sit at the end of my bed, and I used to get these pains, and everyone in my family is very short, right? And I think I'm a legitimate 6'1"-ish, right? And that's a monster for my family. Everyone's short. And my legs used to hurt. My mother would sit at the end of the bed and she would rub my calves and my knees because I was in so much pain. And she would say the growing pains, you're going to be very big. You're going to be very tall, right? And I'm not so sure what that was, but she would basically sit there and tell me like the story of my life. And she would say, you're going to grow up and you're going to be very strong, and you're going to be strong for yourself. You're going to be strong for your family. You're going to be strong for other people, and you are going to have many opportunities to do great things in your life. And she would tell me stories. She would say, you're going to play for the New England Patriots. You're going to do all these things. And it's such a incredible example of what you focus on and what you call into your life can and will happen.
And that's part of your legacy too, from what your mother gave to you. I can remember you and I sitting in a study hall at Richmond, and I couldn't play because of my heart, but they kept me,
Right.
they kept me around, kept me on scholarship, and I was bitching about that in one capacity or other. And it was me and you and Barry Gibrell, a guy who used to come and help us. I'll never forget Barry's best quote ever. Barry was a bigger guy, but he was extremely tan and smooth, and he always smelled well. And he said, a tan will make the ugliest motherfucker in the world look half decent.
So smart. So smart. That guy's a genius.
He was a genius. But you turned to me during study hall, and I was complaining about it, and you go, your story is going to be even more special because you're going to come back from this and you're going to play and you're going to surprise people and inspire people. And it didn't happen then. It happened in another way with my addiction and stuff. But that was that positivity. And I don't even know that you look at yourself at that period of time as somebody who was positive and was inspiring others, but you were, and that's your mom's legacy through you moving on to me. I never forgot that. Even when I had dark points in my addiction, like, your story is actually going to be better. Your story is going to be incredible because you're going to get through this. And I too, I'm not going to say that I worked as hard as you or I played as angry as you, but I too had that rocky upbringing.
Yeah.
Wow, there's something special about this guy. You got two fists and a heartbeat. You can do it.
Right.
And a lot of stuff, that stuff was breaking through fear. For you, when did you start to realize that you were going to be a special football player or that you could play at the next level? Play in college even.
A special, right. So just kind of to finish that, and it kind of dovetails into what you're saying. So after watching this movie, Rocky, what's his habit every day? He gets up early in the morning, like early, like not 6 o'clock, like 4 o'clock, right? And he starts to run through the streets. So I said, well, I'm going to do that. That's what I need to do. So I laid all my stuff out. The next morning I woke up, it was like 4 a.m. I put my stuff on, and I'm like 13 years old, dude, right? And I jogged to the high school. And it's like December, or it's winter, I know that much. And I'm standing on the track, which I had this thing in my head. I always tell this story. I didn't realize that the track would have ice on it and like snow on it. And I'm like, the track's going to be fine, right? And why would it? Because it's not covered. We're not in a dome, right? So I got there and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I had to run on the field on the grass, right? So there's some grip. But I'm standing there. It's dead of morning, black. Like, there's no lights on. We didn't have lights. We played on Saturday. And I look up at the sky and I'm thinking, I wonder how many kids are doing this. And I kept thinking that. And I'd run 100. I catch my breath. I feel like I'm going to die. Then I'll run another 100. And I'm like, man, like, I'm out here alone. And I'm wondering, it's not that bad. It's really not that bad. And that's kind of like something that I adapted and started to bring into my life, that I can do this. And I did it again the next day. I did it again the next day. And I still do it at 46 years old. Meaning, I just need to give my very best. That, coupled with consistency, I firmly believe in my heart that will kind of outweigh the smartest person in the room or the best athlete in the room or whatever it is. And that's when I started to say, I'm doing something extra that no one does.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's no doubt, I'm sure a kid in Nebraska or Ohio is doing it, but there just weren't a lot of kids doing it. I mean, think about my conference in Fall River, the kids we played against in other high schools. How many kids were doing that?
Yeah.
Seriously, at that time. I'm sure they were running conditioning. The people say, hey, it doesn't matter if you get up early, as long as you're conditioning, you're lifting weights. Here's why I beg to differ. The amount of discipline it takes to get up in the morning at 4 o'clock when no one else wants to do it is a massive piece of discipline. And if you can do that, you can apply it to other things. Maybe not all things, but many things. And I started to play high school football, and I realized I was absolutely terrible, but I was super fit, right? I was never tired.
Yeah.
I never get tired out there, and I could always be out there, and I could always run 20, 30, 40 yards downfield and touch the running back, right? So that mattered because most kids, let's be honest, in high school, they were tired.
Yeah.
Not that they weren't good. They
Well,
were just tired.
you hate conditioning. You know, it's,
Right.
running. I remember I used to dread, oh my God, we're going to have to run a mile in summer camp. Like, you know, that's the mentality.
Yeah. Well, that's how it started. We had an indoor track, and we had to run 6 minutes, as many laps as you can, and then you had to run like 12 minutes, as many laps as you can. And I remember thinking, I'm just going to put my head down and run. And I started to lap people. And I started to lap people because they just weren't trying, but I wanted to see what I could do. I wasn't comparing myself to them. I wasn't trying to make them look bad, but I wanted to push myself and get to a place where, yeah, I felt like I was dying. And then I was like, wow, I can't believe I just did 15 laps and everyone else did 10, right? And I was like, man, I'm actually progressing. And because I was doing those things, I know you've heard these types of things before, Pete, but that built my confidence so much that I'm like, man, maybe I am fit.
In recovery, we call that's an esteemable act. And you start to
Yeah.
do those esteemable acts, and you build self-esteem. And all of a sudden, you have confidence, like a real confidence inside of you, like that you can continue to build on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So when in high school, where I started to understand football, I was like, oh my God, I think I made 15 tackles this game. Right. And we started to add them up, and it was like, I'm making a lot of plays out there. Right. And that's when the whole Coach Reed story, and the Coach Reed story is
We'll tell the story.
Yeah.
So our coach Reed at Richmond, ends up recruiting you. You're not getting recruited. You're not a 5-star, right?
Well, let's be quite honest. I was 0-star. So I was giving my all and doing my best, and people were taking notice, but certainly not colleges or anything, just locals, like, in rival towns. They were like that, the kid Marc Megna is a really good football player, right? And I'm like, that in itself was a big deal. I started pounding my chest. I'm like, I never got recognized for anything. So I'm like, wow, man, these guys, like, they know who I am. Like, I remember in the locker rooms, our locker room was here, the visitors were over here, and when we had to go to like the common bathroom area, I could hear them whispering my name. And I was like, wow, they really know me, right? And there was a local guy who actually played for Coach Reed. His name was Nick Salmon. And he messaged Coach Reed and said, you have to come check out this Marc Megna kid. And he's like, I don't have time. I got to go to this school in Central Mass or Northern Mass.
I got to get to Central Mass today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So he's like, look, Saturday they're playing this team. You got to come. They're playing Bishop Stang. I remember the name of the school. Yeah. You got to come see him. Come for a quarter, right?
This is a Saturday in the fall in 1993.
1994.
Okay.
Yeah. It might have been, 94. So a long time ago. Wow. And I didn't know he came to the game, but he was at the game. And in the game, they had a running back named Garth Camara who was super fast. And they would just give him the ball and he would just run by people. Well, I was playing inside linebacker, which I was very average at. They gave the ball to Garth this way, and I took a wrong step this way, and the guard came out and cut my legs. So I had to get up and run downfield to go get him. And at that point, it was a sweep. He started to turn the corner, and he started to run downfield. So I just got up and said, I don't want to look bad. So I just want to run downfield as hard as I can. And I caught him from behind like 40, 45 yards downfield. And I pulled him out of bounds. And when he got up, he said, the kid said, how the hell did you catch me? Right? In any other world, I'd have to have a running start to get to him because he was a wonderful football player. But Coach Reed had seen that. And he went down to the locker room after the game and he said, hey, I just wanted you to know that you have a full scholarship at the University of Richmond. And I was like, it's such a classic kid story of like lack of awareness and understanding. I said, I don't know if I can go. I had to talk to my mom. and I had no scholarship offers. And my head football coach, Bob Bogan, said, you're going. And like, this is a miracle, right? I went home and I told my mom and I said, I just got a scholarship because my mother didn't go to the games. She didn't go to the games. I said, I got a scholarship. Most of the time she was working.
Yeah, I was about to
was
say,
like,
yeah.
what do you mean you got a scholarship? I said, well, I just got a scholarship to school where they're going to pay for my education and I play football there. She's like, what did you say? And I said it to her again and she's like, hold on a second. So she's dialing on the phone. She calls Coach Bogan, my head coach, and she's like, yeah, I want to understand what's going on here because I think Mark doesn't understand whatever he was told. and I said, no, I'm telling you, it's true. And Coach Bogan told her, he said, no, Mark got a scholarship to the University of Richmond. The guy was at the game. He saw him play. He wants him to go to school there. And my mother, she hung up the phone and she started crying. So, I mean, it was amazing. But the irony of that story, the funny part of that story is that Coach Reed had no permission. But Coach Reed at the time was the defensive coordinator at Richmond. You know that, right?
Yeah, Jim Marshall was the head coach, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So Coach Reed had no permission to give out a scholarship. That's number two. When they all sat around that table and they said, all right, who's getting scholarships? They said, let's see the Marc Megna film. Coach Reed said, I don't have it. Like, I don't have a film. And he goes, well, Jimmy, we can't give him a scholarship unless we see the film. He goes, I'm just telling you, he's the best player in Massachusetts. He's unbelievable. By the way, which was not true. I mean, it really wasn't true. That's the funny part. So he's like, this guy's going to be a leader. He's going to be the bring the program back to life. And they said, all right, if you say so, this is on you, Jim. Right. So that's another part of the story where he put his neck out for me. I didn't want to let him down, number one. And the funny part, Pete, is he wasn't going to let me let him down. Right.
Yeah.
So he was like, I got to make sure that this works. Right. So he would walk over to me and say, you better be first. Like, you better be first in everything. Like, and I was thinking, he's right. Like, I can't let him down. And
how are you? You get to school. Well, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, that's it. That's really it. Go ahead.
It's an amazing story. But you show up at school and he's the defensive coordinator for Boston College, right?
No,
because
I didn't show up for school. So when Coach Reed left Richmond, before I got in the spring of my senior year, he had gotten the job to be a linebacker defense coordinator at Boston College. Yeah. And what happened there was he went to coach at Richmond because Jim Marshall told him, look, I'm on the way out. I'm going to coach one more year, and then you can have this job. But when Coach Reed got there, the defense played very well. He ignited the team. The team went 7-4 and turned the whole program around. So now Jim Marshall's like, I'm not leaving. And Jim Reed's like, what do you mean you're not leaving? That's the only reason I came here, right? So he's like, no problem. I understand, but I just got a job offer at Boston College, right? So he goes to Boston College, and I had already committed to Richmond. So my high school coach shows up at school and says, I got some bad news. Coach Reed left Richmond. He's at Boston College. And I said, that's great news. I would love to go to Boston College. Right? And he goes, no, it doesn't work like that. And I go, what do you mean? Coach Reed loves me. Like I know he wants me to play there. And he's like, Mark, you got to go to Richmond. And I was like, what do you mean I have to go to Richmond? Clearly, I picked the school based off the coach. We all know that, right? And he's like, I don't know what to tell you. You're going to get a great education. You're going to go to Richmond. And I'm like, Coach, I'm like one of like there's no kids from like the north down there at the current moment, right? Like they hate me as it is. The only reason I went is because of Coach Reed, Coach Cullen, this whole deal, right? So I get there. It was a horrific environment, like awful. The football culture was terrible.
Yeah.
It was negative, toxic. Teammates were gossipy. It was just awful, right? And I'm thinking, I can't believe I'm going to school here. I mean, I'm happy to get the scholarship. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but I'm like this.
And you're redshirting your freshman year, right?
I was actually a linebacker and as like a
Yeah.
redshirt,
Yeah.
and Coach Cullen was stuck there.
Yeah. Coach
So
Cullen, Joe Cullen, defensive line coach. He's now defensive line coach with the Chiefs. Decorated, amazing career. You became his guy, and
well,
so
yeah, that's another story. But Coach Cullen was pissed that Coach Reed wasn't there,
Mhm.
so it was like open season and taking it out on everyone. And like he was like, you never really saw bad Coach Cullen. I had bad Coach
Which
Cullen
Coach
for like,
Marshall? Okay, yeah,
oh my God, it was like he brutal. Like he was like David Goggins just trying to make guys quit.
uh huh,
So Coach Reed leaves that season. I'm getting redshirted. We go like 2-9. I mean, we got killed, right? And some of the seniors were telling me, Megs, you should transfer out of here because you could actually play college football. You could be a good player. And I'm like, transfer where?
yeah.
Like I don't have anyone that wants me there. Right? They're like, nah, you got to get out of here because they're never going to win here. And that was like Maurice Glenn,
Uh huh.
B Light, and all those guys who are hilarious, but they just didn't care,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, they were hilarious.
Yeah, they were hilarious, and they would tell you that.
Yeah.
They That's just what it was. So spring comes around, they fire the coach, and now they're head coach hunting. And I walk right into the AD's office, and I said, "Look,
Chuck Boone.
yeah, I need to know, is Jim Reed coming back here?" And they said, "Well, Mark, we're doing a search, and we're trying to find the best option for head coach." And so I went into the office. I think Elio went in, DJ went in, Seth went in, all these guys, Seth Watson went in. We all
Yeah.
went in, and
A bunch of guys
we were
from Massachusetts who Coach Reed.
all guys from
Yeah, yeah.
Massachusetts, all of them, right? And we were like, we need Coach Reed back here. Like, go get him, right? So maybe a month later, I see Coach Reed with his sports jacket walking through the corridor, and I'm like, oh my God, Coach Reed's back, right?
Yeah.
And he goes, are you ready to play football and win? And I said, yes, sir. He goes, okay. He goes, you better work your ass off. He goes, you better work your ass off. And that the first practice, I remember him saying, Mark, go stand with the defensive lineman. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. No problem. I'll go stand over there. And then he's like, I said, for how long? He's like, forever. And I was like, Coach, we got to talk. So I went into his office and I said, Coach, I just want to ask you your thoughts on something. Like I'm like 225 pounds. Like I'm not that big. I think like linebacker is best for me. And he said, let me just explain something to you. At the University of Richmond, you're going to be a defensive lineman. He said, you better give me everything you've got because I stuck my neck out for you, and I know you can be an extraordinary player, but you're going to have to put some weight on and work your ass off. Get out of my office. And I was like, I was so like kind of disheartened and like I fell down. But I remember we had like for two, I was playing 3 technique.
Yeah.
I would interchange between the 1 and the 3, which was nose guard and defensive tackle. And we had 8 guys to play 2 positions. And I wasn't starting. And now this is my redshirt freshman year, my second year.
Yeah, you're about to be able to play, and yeah.
Right. And I remember when we, after stretch, when everyone went together and they put their hands up and they said, okay, hard work on 3, 1, 2, 3, hard work. It was a track meet. Like I sprinted full speed to the drills, right?
Yeah,
and I remember thinking,
drills.
I have to die at these drills. I'm talking about effort-wise, like die at these drills. And I remember standing first in line, and Jason Giska was standing behind me.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, he said, back of the line, freshman. And I said, I'm not fucking going anywhere. I said, I'm standing right here. I said, if you beat me here, you can stand in front of me.
Giskin
Other
wasn't
than
an Adonis, but he was a motherfucker, and he was a
no, he
good
was a great
player.
player. He was
Yeah,
a great person, but he was
yeah,
also a great player.
great player.
And he was like 6'6", 240 pounds,
Yeah.
right? So like a young Pete Sousa. So also, like, I got into a lot of fights because of that energy and that attitude.
Oh
Like
yeah,
people didn't like it. But at the same time, I knew that I would not be able to live with myself sitting over there.
yeah,
So I had to do everything I could. And then I just remember thinking after the first set of drills, I had given everything I had. I was done. I was exhausted. But I remember thinking, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. It's going to get better. And I just kept giving effort like that in everything I did. And then the talent part started to catch up.
yeah.
So
And those teams were good. I mean, you created a winning culture. You helped create a winning culture there. What is you continued? I mean, watching you practice was crazy. I mean, it really was. I remember you telling Torrey Vinny this was not tennis. You know,
yeah,
after you dropped him on his head in a scout, like in scout team, but you only went one speed, and I've talked about this. It's hard to imagine somebody that age as a young man working that hard, and it really is. I think today it still would blow people away and be an incredible exception. Were you? What is the line? I was just listening to a book. I hate saying listening to. My new thing is to say I'm in the middle of it, so I don't have to tell people I'm not reading it. But it's a Bill Parcells book, and he talks about Bill Parcells and Bobby Knight, and these guys, as successful as they are, they're tortured. You know, they won a Super Bowl, and then it's okay. What are we doing today? How did you manage that? Because now knowing you like I do, you're a serene guy. You really are. But at that point in time, that anger, that passion made you succeed. It's the same reason, like, you know, you heard Michael Jordan at the Hall of Fame. He's just throwing around resentment still. You know, the guy I mean, that's what made him the greatest. How do you walk that tightrope in college? Is there no tightrope to walk? Do you only go one speed?
I mean, in college, it was like, the thing is, like, you have personalities, right? Like, there's certain personalities that absolutely love that. And then there was people that hated me. Like, they hated me. But I was in such a selfish place that I'm like, look, I don't care what you think. Like, we need to win. And more importantly than that, I need to give my best because I'm not going home because of you. There's no way. I'm not, like, when I see these, like, look, this is me under rationalizing it as a kid, but I see you pull up in your brand new SUV, and I see pictures of your home back home. My point is, there's nothing wrong with that. That's amazing. That means that your parents worked very hard to provide for you. But I know what you can go back to if it doesn't work out here. I also know what I'm going back to. So that was on the forefront of my mind, and I said, like, And honestly, the truth is, I think I need to get back there, but it's like, I didn't care what anyone thought. Like, I legitimately didn't care what anyone thought. I was like, I don't care if you hate me. I don't care what you think. If you're telling me to be lazy, to be slower, to not work as hard, there's no way, A, I'm going to listen to you, and B, I'm going to like you. So I don't want to be around you. And I also know that the more guys like that we have in the team, we can't win.
Yes.
Just can't.
Yeah. And you set the tempo, you set that tone for that first year. We had an unbelievable season. And you know, every year the team was better and better. I don't have the records in front of me, but, you know, you win the Atlantic 10 when you're a senior. It's really happening for you. And you know, I always tell the story. You were a lovable guy too. I mean, you really were. I mean, and everybody else would attest to that. Like, you were angry. You played angry. You had that passion. You were like an uncut gem, dude. So was I. I was a complete moron. I mean, I was like, everybody knows my story. You don't have to look hard to find it.
A lot of stories, man.
Yeah,
A lot of stories.
yeah. But you know, my favorite story. We got Elio, who is now Mr. Ice, whatever. He's like an expert, gambling wise. And I used to hang out in your and Elio's room when you guys were on road trips.
I remember.
And I would take bets, for Elio, and you'd be like, "What?" And that was another thing. You never judged anybody. You were just like, "Don't get me in trouble," know. And I used to drink all your Gator Pro. And
I remember. And I come back and there's like 4 missing. And I know every time you drank them.
Souza, did you drink my Gator Pro?
I know. I swear I didn't touch anything. I'm like, come on, look me in the eye. No, I didn't. I'm telling you, Mark. Why would I? And you drank them every time.
Liar. It was great. And I had you were a very sweet guy to me. Maybe it was because I didn't play and I was different, but you were just always so sweet to me. Don't want to keep you here all day, but I want to get into how you got in to the NFL, how you end up playing in pro football, because it's an incredible transition. And you take, you're at a level in college where still some guys are like, oh, come on, go along. You're like, I'm not going along. I'm giving 110%. You get drafted by the New York Jets. Walk us through how that happened.
Going out to practice as my junior year for me was my, as they say, a coming out party. I was like, man, I just learned something very important about football. When they snap the ball, I'm going to come off the ball so hard and so fast. Like the quarterback just got the ball, it was like a sack, right? I think I had like 30 tackles for loss and 14 sacks, and it was just insane.
You were a human highlight reel on the defense. It really was. It was pretty awesome. It was a lot of fun to watch.
I appreciate that. It's very nice. But I went out to a practice, and there were like 4 scouts there. And I'm like, oh, they're here. They must be here for like Sean or something. And
Sean Barber, yeah.
Yeah, and Coach Collins said, they're actually here for you, because I talked to him before practice. And when he told me that, I got real nervous. I'm like, I don't want to do anything wrong. I want to look good. And he's like, these guys think you can play in the NFL. And I'll never forget the feeling it gave me inside my chest. I was like, I've been waiting to hear that my whole life. Like my whole life. And now these guys are watching me. They're following me around to drills. And I'm thinking, I need to keep this going. And I need to like play very well where, Sean Casey, right? I was on Sean Casey's podcast and he told a story about his dad where Sean didn't really play that well, but he thought he played well. And his dad looked him in the eye and said, you need to be glaringly better than everyone else. And that's exactly how I was thinking about it back then. It can't be like, okay, you had a sack. That means nothing. It means nothing. You need to have like 4, right? You need to have like 3 every game. You need to have like all these big plays and come off the ball fast and like get to the ball carrier and punch the ball out. I would literally stay up the night before the game and I swear to God, I would visualize when I get to the ball carrier, I'm going to grab the back of his jersey and I'm going to punch the ball out. And then I would do it. But I spent weeks thinking about those plays, I'm going to tackle the quarterback. I'm going to put my finger in the air at the same time, right? And I was like, I really wanted to do it. So I started to do all these things. And I got to tell you this story because this is like a really important thing to me that you probably appreciate. Every summer, I stay at the University of Richmond. And tell everyone why you would stay at the University of Richmond if you're a football player.
You just work to work out. I mean, you would stay to work out, go to summer college. And just you really didn't have an option.
Yeah, you everyone kind of the core group of guys would stay, and it was fun too, right?
Yeah.
There was a little bit more freedom.
Yes,
not as much school. We're doing fun things. We're just laughing together. We're just building the camaraderie, and I love that because that to me made my college experience extraordinary.
Yeah.
And every summer I would go to Barnes and Noble or Books and Books. Was it Barnes and Noble or Books and Books down there?
I think there were 2 of them. Yeah.
So I would go to the bookstore, and in the bookstore they'd have the magazine section, and in the magazine section they had the college football previews.
Yeah, it still gives you goosebumps, right?
So when I was a kid, I'm talking like 9. There was a woman who lived in our project, and she worked at a magazine factory, and she would literally just steal the magazines that I liked. she would give me like comic books and magazines of sports. She said, "What do you like?" I said, "I love sports. I love football. I love basketball." And she would just to get all the magazines, and she would give me like a big trash bag of all the magazines. So I was like enamored by this. I was fascinated with the athletic culture and the way, as I said before, the way they commanded respect, the way their bodies looked. And I would rip the pictures out of the magazines and I put them all over the wall. So when you walked into my brothers and I bedrooms, we shared a bedroom.
Michael.
My side was all scattered with pictures. I still have the picture.
Yeah.
And I could tell you that guy right there, it's Lawyer Malloy, goes to University of Washington. That's that Derek Thomas goes to University of Alabama, number 55, has a college sack record. I knew all those things backwards. And people couldn't believe it. I knew his height, I knew his weight, everything.
Yeah, that was fun to connect with you on that level too, because I was like a sports nut too. You knew everything.
Oh well, yeah. you're amazing, but I love talking about those things. And even now, I can cover basketball, and people like can't believe it.
Yeah.
So that's how I spent a lot of my youth. So when I went to University of Richmond, I would look at the college football preview. Where is Richmond ranked? Who are the notable players to watch? And are there any players from Richmond on the all-conference team or all-American team? And there was a section in the back that ranked the top 10 players at each position in college football for every division. And I was like, someday I'm going to be on that list. I'm going to be on the all-American team. And I would tell myself, I'm going to be on the All-American team. I'm going to be on the All-American team. And when I was as a freshman, I looked at it, but not for me, just to see if they called me out and said, like, he's a good player to watch, right? Mm-hmm. Did the same thing as a sophomore. As a junior, I was on the all-conference team. And then the summer before my senior year, I must have went to that bookstore like 7 times.
Just waiting for it to come out.
They were like, it's not out yet. It's not out yet. And I'm like, right? So it's a Saturday, middle of the day. I go to the bookstore. I see Sporting News college football preview. And I remember the running back on it was the running back from Notre Dame. I pick it up. Obviously, 1AA football. I flip to the back. I see the All-American team. And I see myself on the All-American team. And then I look to the top defensive lineman in college football, and I was number 1 in the country. And you know who the writer for that was?
Who?
John O'Connor.
Who wrote for the Richmond Times-Dispatch.
Yeah. And I remember thinking, I can't believe I'm the number 1 defensive lineman in the country. And 5 feet to my left, there was an older woman who was reading like Better Homes and Garden. And I was in the aisle and I'm holding this sports football preview and I start crying. And I said, she's like, "Are you okay, son?" I said, "I'm okay. I'm just really happy." And I couldn't believe that my name was there. I just couldn't believe it. We didn't have cell phones or anything, so I can't take a picture. But I was like, I want like 2 of these because no one's going to believe me, right? Yeah. So that was the story. And then I remember thinking, I got up at 4 a.m., middle school, high school, lifting weights, conditioning, all that shit that I went through and everyone went through. And I remember when I was a kid and people making fun of me and telling me what I could and couldn't do. And, I used to have this mentality, prove everyone wrong, prove everyone wrong. Now it was like, as I got older, I realized that's not what I'm doing. What I'm doing is I'm going to prove everyone right. Like my mother believed in me. My grandfather believed in me.
Coach
my college coach believed in me. Like there was a lot of people who did believe in me, and I didn't want to let them down, right? But I had to be very careful because there are people in your life that, you got to keep out, right? Because they know how to motivate you and they know how to get to you. And then there's like a small basket of people who were genuine, authentic, and really cared about me. And that was a very small group. And I was thinking, when I go out on the field, my brother has been a construction worker for 23 years. When I went out on the field at the University of Richmond to practice, I wasn't thinking it's hard. I wasn't thinking, oh my God. I wasn't thinking it's annoying or I'm going to get tired. I'm thinking about my brother who's digging holes in the winter in Massachusetts from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Yeah, that's
And I'm
hard.
thinking, I got off easy,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
This is a blessing, and I need to make the most of it. Because whenever I would feel sorry for myself, I would think about my brother, and he was like, "Don't fuck this up. Like, don't fuck this up. Like, you have to go out there, and you got to represent you, and you got to represent me and mom. Like, this is like a generational shift and change that no one went to college. No one like
Yeah.
my mother like barely finished high school, right? So the weight of that and the importance of that, like it was deep in my soul. And I'm like, you know what, man, that's what you were looking at. Was I angry? Yeah, I was very angry because
Yeah.
I didn't like them having those types of lives. And I wanted to change that.
Let me give you a quick magazine story too. This is 2011. Now it's 2012. I'm out of rehab. I'm living in this halfway house, but I'm sober, right? I've probably been sober a month. And I go over to the ShopRite, and I'm walking by the magazine section. This is no bullshit. I don't know that I've ever told you this. And there you are on the cover of a Muscle and Fitness magazine on the fucking rack. And it gave me hope. At this point in time, I was starting to believe in myself. I can do anything. And so, like, that is that, again, one of those things, like, there you are. I know your story. I know it wasn't easy. And there you are, like just staring out, like, you know, looking like $1 million on this Muscle and Fitness magazine, reminding me that I could do it, you know, because that's knowing somebody's story gives so much more power to a presence or a moment like that. So you go to, before you can say thank you, because I know you're going to. So
I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
we get you into the NFL. How does that, you know, Bill Parcells, I love it. He said, I love the kid from Richmond who will go until he hears glass break, which is like, people saw that in you. You know, it's the same thing as Coach Reed when you're chasing that kid all the way down the field. Coach Parcells saw that in you too. I never really have talked to you too much about that transition to getting into the NFL, to getting drafted. That had to be so surreal.
Yeah, man. Like, I'm a realist, and I started to hear stories about how guys make teams and what's important. People started giving me information. Sean was a year ahead of me, so he gave me a lot of great information. And I started to read in these magazines once again the rankings of inside linebackers, right? Because they said I'm going to be a linebacker. And I was like ranked as an inside linebacker. I didn't even play inside linebacker. So I'm like, of course I wasn't big enough to be a defensive lineman. But the funny part is now I see like those stories of like Dwight Freeney and Aaron Donald. And I'm like, shit, I could have done that. Right? And I know those guys are extraordinary. Yeah. I'm just saying it would have been much easier for me to gain 20 than run with the best athletes in the world. Yeah. Right. So I'm looking at these rankings. I'm ranked as a linebacker. And that day I was at the University of Richmond. I was living there because I was training and all that. And I remember when I ran I got to tell you this, when I ran the pro shuttle, I ran that pro shuttle. It had to be at least 1,000 times. When I did it, like I started running that thing, my time was like awful. And I had it so down. And it's like repetition is the mother of learning, right? You can be good at anything if you do it enough. I ran a sick pro shuttle time. I can't remember what it was, but they were like, wow, he's very athletic. And I really wasn't. But they started to think that because all my tests were really great. Yeah. And one reason they were great is because you know me and I practiced them 1,000 times. So with that, I'm at the field house in Robins Center. And I'm in that room and I gave him my number where I was going to be on draft day. And I answered the phone and Bill Parcells, you know, I remember the person said, could I please speak to Marc Megna? And nowadays the secretary calls and then they get you and then they hand the phone to the coach. It wasn't that. The coach called me
Who are you sitting with in the Robin
Oh, it's
Center?
on my mind. It's one of those rooms that Coach Leonard, those restricted earnings rooms. Remember that?
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I
So
used to
it's like
do
a mattress on the
cut film
floor.
back there. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little. They wired the room because it was like a equipment closet, but they turned it into a room for like restricted earnings coaches. And I lived illegally in that room, by the way. And I had a mattress on the floor. I had the phone there, dial phone, not the dial phone, the push button phone. I had a little TV, and I would just kind of like chill there. And I remember I went to D Hall for breakfast, and then I was playing basketball, and then I came in like when the draft started, and I remember I waited, and then my phone rang, and I was like, man, I'm so upset that my family's calling me. I want them to keep the line clean, right? So I answered the phone, and the guy says, may I please speak with Marc Megna? And I said, this is Marc Megna. He goes, do you know who this is, son? And I always say this, but the reason I say it is because I just knew. Like, I wasn't watching the draft. And the reason I wasn't watching it because I had too much anxiety. And I'm like, man, what if I don't get picked? What if like I don't get signed to a team? It's going to be really embarrassing. And I said, I do know who this is. And he said, this is Bill Parcells. And I always think it's funny, like, I don't know who Bill Parcells is, right? He goes, this is Bill Parcells. I'm the head coach of the New York Jets. And I'm like, thank you for telling me you're the head coach of the New York Jets. And he says, we're thinking about taking you with this next pick. But first, I want to ask you a few questions. And he says, are you a pretty good defensive player? And I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And he goes, can you play middle linebacker for us? I said, yes, sir. He said, can you rush the passer on third downs? I said, yes, sir. And I was like, yes, sir. And he's like, can you be a special teams demon for us? I was like, sure, Because of course you play special teams, you're not a star, right? And so he's like, welcome to the New York Jets, son. And I hung up the phone, and I know it's going to sound like I'm an emotional wreck, but of course, when I hang up that phone, I'm sitting in this closet, and I didn't think about shit about football. What I thought about was all the things that my mom went through and my brother does for a living and all the stuff that I went through. And I just got drafted by an NFL team. Like, I know like we're on this show and we're talking, like people don't think it's a big deal. It was the biggest deal to me. Like I cared more. I worked my entire 21 years to be recognized just to get drafted. And when it happened, I was like, it proved to me in an instant. And I know people are going to say that's not comparable and you can't think that way, but it just proved to me that you can do anything you want to do in this world if you put your mind to it. And there's a lot of people that say, it's not true. And I say, fuck you, it is true. It's true.
I'm going back to the kid who discovered the ice on the track and was like,
I'm like, bro, when people say, no, it's not true. And I go, I feel bad for you, man. Because the very reason you are where you are, and I don't care if you're, a successful businessman, if you're a gazillionaire, if you're a billionaire, whatever it is, you would be even more successful if you had a better attitude. And the reason that I believed that I could do anything was not because of my ability, not because of my height, not because of my strength. It was because of my attitude. And I tell people that today. I'm like, I don't run around and hoot and holler because it's not appropriate for what I do today. But the person that I am inside, when I see someone do something great, I want to jump up and pump my fist for them. And I want to hug them, I think attitude and energy, like when I see people do well in life, I don't care what it is. I love it. Like I love it. And that's a large part of who I am. And I often feel nowadays, Pete, I can't be myself because people are going to be like, why are you so happy for someone else? And I'm like, I love it because that person just showed others what's possible. And I believe our mission is to show people what's possible. And if you don't do it, who's going to do it? You have to do it. You have an obligation to show other people who have struggled like you have, Pete, what's possible.
Yeah,
amazing life and I watch you on sports as an analyst and an anchor, and I'm like, you have no idea how far he's come and what he's been through.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible.
Yeah, and people gave it away to me, and that's the thing. Like you live and breathe that example others see it and they get the inspiration and they can reach out and touch it. Somebody's got to do it for somebody else to do it, right? I mean, and that's what we can show people. A couple more things. You are such a big family guy, right? As far as your mom and your brother's concerned and other members of your family, you walked that, you talked it, but your teammates too. I can remember I was at the Hall of Fame game in Canton, and at this point in time, you're with the Patriots, and I go to see you, and you're like, Sousa, come here, and I come over. And you treat me, I mean, like I hadn't seen you in a while. And we're talking, I mean, you're introduced, let me introduce you to the best player of all time. This is Willie McGinnis. And I remember I shook his hand. It was so awesome. I'm talking to Willie. He's one of those guys, right? He's just like fabulous and physical. You're just in front of him. You're like,
he's a bad dude, man. Like,
yeah.
I remember, I gotta tell you a little bit about Willie McGinnis. When I got in the locker room, he's like, what's up, Megna? He goes, where you from? And I said, I'm from Fall River. He goes, no shit. He goes, they got some hot Portuguese girls in Fall River.
He's right.
And I was like, shit, that's right. And he was so nice to me because certain players like Willie McGinnis, as you know, 6'6", 265, 8-pack, like he is like the man.
USC, right? Just like he couldn't get any cooler. It was just.
He's the man, like swag. Like badass, tough. He could like, and I'm saying Willie, but it's really any player like that. They can identify blue collar, hard work, grind, like just tenacity. They just see it. And he was like, he would like say things to me to motivate me, but he knew. He would be like, dog, you got to go out there and bust your ass because they'll get rid of you. He goes, every day you need to battle. Practice needs to be a war. And he was right. I never forget one day, I was sitting in the locker room and Willie all the linebackers sat next to each other. And Willie was sitting right next to me. And there's kind of like, you could hear, everyone's quiet before practice. And like 4 or 5 guys walked in and they were going to get equipment for the day. And I saw him and I looked at him and I kind of looked around. Willie leaned forward and he looked at him. He goes, see those guys over there? I said, yeah. He goes, those guys are here to take your job. They're not going to take my job. They're here to take your job. And they all looked like me. They all had like faded hair. They were all like 6 feet to 6'2", 225 to 240, you know, all 1AA schools, probably legends at the school, workhorses. And he goes, guess what? If you don't have an amazing day at practice, you're going home and they're getting your jersey. And he wasn't wrong. He was right. He was completely. They do that every day. And
that speaks to the realist that you are.
They like upgrade, right? They want to upgrade their roster. They want to be better too. So if this kid is amazing, they're going to use him. That's what it is. So if you're a fringe player, like this, you want to talk about stress. I often tell our team, like, you know, if you walk in here like a minute late, here's the thing. You're not really going to lose your job. In the NFL, you get fined 10 grand. If you're lucky. And after that, they buy a ticket for you. They charge you for the ticket. And it's not a plane ticket. It's like a bus ticket. And they send you out of here. Because this is a business. And this is like, no one's late. When I say no one's late, no one's late. Right? And you know, like no one messes up the defense. No one. So now when I'm watching TV and I see like the safety like step up and I see the guy run down the middle of the seam, I'm like, ooh, that sucks. That guy's getting caught.
Yeah.
I see it. And I'm like, nope, that's not okay.
What did you learn from a guy like Bill Parcells or a guy like, you know, I can't think who Belichick, yeah. What did you learn from those guys that you are able to impart on your team now at Anatomy as you continue to do great work? Because not only are you helping people, you know, get well as far as physical and mental health, but you're also, you know, giving it away, like I talked about earlier, helping these young people.
You know, a great question, but you know, I know it sounds super corny, but I played for Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, Dick LeBeau, and Pete Carroll.
Wow.
Now, three of those guys are Hall of Famers, no doubt. And it's probable Pete Carroll won two, right?
Yeah.
Probable. So four Hall of Fame football coaches, more or less, right? Now, people say they're coaches, right? They are coaches. Coaches are CEOs. And they will give you an itinerary that says the bus is leaving at 7:47. Not 7, not 7:30, not 8, 7:47. And there's a reason it's 7:47, right? So they have everything. They are so organized and so on top of things, right? And it's they under Bill Belichick is an example of he does not miss anything. And all these stories about like Belichick has passed his prime and he shouldn't be there anymore. I just laugh. I go, bro, can I explain something to you? Bill Belichick will sit in a room, and this is what he did with Brady. And I know because I saw it. He'd sit in the room with the quarterbacks and go, look, this is what they're doing. This is what you need to do. And I'm not talking about like offensive scheming, but he's going to say, when you get the ball, I need you to hold your eyes here and then throw the ball here. Because the DB is looking at your eyes. And he knows that if your eyes are there, you can't throw the ball across your body, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he go 1, 2, and then throw the ball, and the receiver's going to be right there. So all those like perfect little passes by Brady, how do you think that happened? I'm being very honest. Like Brady is incredible. I am the biggest Brady fan in the world.
Yeah.
I tried to name my son Brady, by the way. Right? She wouldn't let me. But I love the name Maddox, so I'm very happy.
That's a great name.
So he understands things like he's so far ahead of everyone, like he's thought about it. And what happens is, and I know what you're going to say, but just hold on to it. Like he schemes things and says, look, if you bump out to number 2 and you reroute him, that's going to disrupt the timing of the route. It's going to give us an extra second, and we're going to sack the quarterback. There's no doubt, right? What happens is the guy doesn't bump out at number 2.
Yeah.
He doesn't get rerouted. He's running right down the seam. Quarterback throws the ball, then the defensive lineman hits him, touchdown. And Belichick's looking at the guy and goes, all you had to do, you don't even have to be, that's why you don't even have to be good. You just have to know what to do. Push that guy out a little bit or reroute him with your body position. He's going to run around you.
Yeah.
Right? So, but when they don't do what they're supposed to do, and we're going to say, well, Mark, isn't that the quality of a coach? He does the best he can in schemes with the personnel he has. I would say yes, but if you have a job to do and you don't do it, that's not talent. That's following through. That's detail, right? So Belichick gets frustrated because you didn't do any of the things I told you to do. And now I have to cut you and you're upset. I can't run a business that way. I can't run a team that way. We all depend on you to do your job. If you can't do your job, I can't have 10 other guys going, I hope he does his job this time. It doesn't work that way. And the best Patriots teams you saw were a bunch of role players who did their jobs exceptionally well with great consistency.
When you finish your career, decorated career in the CFL, after a career in the NFL, and you finish your career, what do you lean on? Do you lean on all of this to start this behemoth, which is anatomy now? Like, did you, because you talk about, it's not like you had a ton of money in the bank. You didn't play for, you had to make some very difficult decisions, maybe desperate decisions, right? Fueled by that passion. How did you find that gear to do that stuff?
Well, exactly that. I remember like when football ended for me, I was in Montreal. And at the time, I was still well known, and I was kind of riding the coattails of that stardom or whatever.
Enjoying yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I was enjoying myself. Right?
Montreal's awesome. Yeah,
but a little too much, and it was kind of like, all right, Mark, you're a grown up, you need to get a job, right? And I was like, what am I going to do? And I remember I was going out like every night. Like I was going out, right? And then it hit me like, bro, you got to make a decision. Like, what are you doing? And I remember I asked one of my teammates, I said, man, I don't really know what to do. And my teammate, Anwar Stewart, who was an exceptional friend, my roomie on the road, he was the defensive end, which is an outside linebacker in Canada, opposite me. We became very close. He's now the I think he's like the defense coordinator of Kentucky.
Oh,
He's
okay.
awesome.
Yeah, I saw him on. Yeah, yes. Okay.
He's awesome. So he's like, bro, why aren't you training people? Because in the CFL we have a group of guys that write the program. We do this program. We did it consistently. They loved it. He said, why don't you just train people? I mean, you're so good at it. And I was like, you really think I could do that for a living? And he's like, what? He goes, people need to be inspired. He's like, people need to be led. He's like, that's what you do for us. You could do it for them, right? And I was like, man, maybe I'll try that. So I moved to Miami. And the reason I went to Miami is because we used to go down there in the off season. You do your drills on the beach, you train in the weight room, and it was got a lot done. And I remember when I was down there, what happened was you had this big group of guys who would go down there and train. And every like few days, like one of them would like be missing, right? Because he'd go out and drink too much or hang with this girl or whatever it is. And I remember thinking, how do people live in Miami? And I asked this businessman once, he goes, here's the catch with Miami. If you're just a little bit disciplined and a little bit focused, you can dominate down here. He goes, you can, because most people are out, they're not disciplined, they're partying, and they're not focused and they're not hustling. Now, being a hustler, like hustling people and being a hustler are two different things,
Uh-huh.
right? As you know.
Yeah.
So, like I start training people. I was training myself. I was a member at Equinox, and the manager came up to me. Her name was Yvonne Castanenga. She goes, "Why aren't you working here? You would be an amazing trainer here." And I said, "You really think I could have success doing that here?" She's like, "What?" She's like, "You would be great." So she recruited the heck out of me because a week later or a couple weeks later I was a trainer, and I started just working with people. And I mean, I wore a blue shirt. I was picking up weights, and I was so embarrassed because I was thinking I played in the NFL.
Were you ever worried somebody that played in the NFL with you was going to come in and see you?
Oh, it happened. It happened. It happened a few times, and I remember thinking, man, like talk about a fall from grace, right? I was
Mm-hmm.
like, wow, this is very humbling. But in all seriousness, Pete, like that's exactly what I needed. Like I really needed that, right? I needed to be humbled. I needed to go through this process because I kind of saw a side of life that very few people get to see. And that doesn't really happen for a lot of people. And I needed to figure out on my own that that's not normal, right? And that's not, people don't live their lives like that. You know what I mean? So,
Like guys in the NFL.
yeah, of course,
Yeah.
right? But even now, and guys in the NFL, they've learned to keep it humble. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care how much money you make. It's like drive a normal car, have one house, not five houses. Like it becomes normalized. Yeah, I have a good job. I get paid a lot of money, but I'm not going to be stupid. That's more the norm today.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, it was like, let me just spend money like it's air, right?
Yeah.
And listen, I gave some money to my mom, and we did certain things, but I didn't make a ton of money. I just did it, right? And put some money away. And I remember thinking, I have to like go to work if I want to be good at this. So I would show up early, I would work out, I would put my blue shirt on, which signified that I was there to assist people. And I just got one client, and that one client told another person, this guy's awesome. I started to train people. I started at the lowest tier, making like no money. And I just kept working. I kept showing up. I said, look, I'm not, I don't care about anything else. All I care about is I want to be good at this. I want to put in the time. I'm going to show up early, and I'm going to spend a lot of time here. I'm going to live here. So I did that. And people would come up to me and they would talk to me. And I see a lot of those people are actually members at Anatomy today.
Had you
But I
met your
was,
wife, Melanie, at that time?
I met her at a Equinox event,
Okay.
a charity event, but
But the reason I mention that is because it's a great example of you fall in love, but you're hungry and you're still giving everything you have into your job, and that's a balancing act.
oh yeah, I mean, that's a great conversation piece in itself. But I remember thinking like, I, I I need to like everyone I trained was like, why are you here? And I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, you're too good for this place. You need to be here. And that was such a nice and sweet thing to say, but I knew in my heart I needed to be there.
Mm.
Like those compliments provided me a quick dopamine hit, but I needed to be there. Here's why. I didn't know what I was doing. I needed a lot of reps, and then it was a great learning ground. They had a great educational system. I started to learn a ton, started to meet a lot of people, and I was like, I'm going to show up Monday morning at 4 a.m. I'm going to work out. I'm going to train my first client at 5:30 or 6, and I'm going to train 5 people. Then I'm going to have lunch. Then I'm going to train 5 more people, and then started to work at a performance center in Equinox. I was at Equinox for like almost 9 years.
When do you know it's time to make the move? Some people struggle with that, like to
Yeah.
really push to make the move. Some people have
No,
their
I
decisions
agree.
made for them, whether they get fired or somebody calls
Right,
them up and
right,
gives them another job. But a lot of times it comes down to yourself. When do you
right.
know it's time to put the pedal to the metal?
If you get fired, by the way, it's much easier to make a move and get motivated if you get fired, right?
Yeah.
Someone, like sometimes, like if I have to like let someone go, I realize I'm starting a fire in that person.
Yeah, it's a consequence and it can really ignite change.
Here's the thing, like I get letters all the time, letters, handwritten letters. Thank you. Like I really needed that. And like sometimes I realize like I give them one chance, two, three, four, five. I'm hurting them.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I'm hurting them. And to answer your question, I was banging out all these sessions. Like a pay period is 2 weeks. I was probably doing like 120 sessions a pay period.
Wow.
I was exhausted, right? And it's broken up oddly, right? I
Yeah.
remember I had a client at 9 o'clock at night. I remember I had a client early in the morning. I was always tired. And I'm thinking, man, the real world can't be like this, right? And in my like seventh or eighth year, a good friend of mine who's a sports agent, he tells me, he says, hey, what is your plan for your future? And I'm like, well, I'm going to train this guy at 5, then I'm going to train this guy at 6. And then he goes, no, 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 your life, your future. And I go, I don't know. Like, I love training people. I love helping people. He's like, you should probably open up your own facility. And that gave me anxiety. I'm like, no, 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 I don't want to do that. I don't know what I'm doing. And then he came over to my house with a whiteboard, markers, paper, and he started like, we started talking about things. And he's still my friend to this day. And he's an extraordinary person. And he's doing really well for himself, but he's no longer a sports agent. And maybe like 6 months into it, he says, hey, I have this friend that wants to open up a gym. And he wants to do a spa with a fitness component. And he's like, I think you guys should meet because I think that you guys could have something. Just meet him. And I said, okay, that'd be great. I'd love to meet him. We sat down at a local Miami hotel for like lunch or something and talked. The guy was a very well-known guy.
A local Miami hotel, probably the nicest fucking place
Yeah, it was. It really was. It really was the nicest place.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think it was the nicest place in due part to him because he had like a management contract and he's really good at it, right?
Yeah.
He's awesome. So, I was like, kind of enamored by the guy. And I mean, he was like 3 or 4 years older than me, but he was like, I'm not going to say it on this podcast, but he had a very like awesome reputation,
Mm-hmm.
So I said, look, this is what I like to do. I just told him I like to train people. I think I understand how to build a great culture and why. And I was kind of feeding him that and giving him that and explaining that. And I'm not so sure that mattered to him, but he wanted to start a spa and like he's very creative. And so he found the location and I said, look, I'm willing to give everything I have, like work very hard, and we could form this partnership. And the irony is like I didn't really know him. My friend said he's a good person, he means well, he's not going to screw you over, and that meant a lot to me because I didn't really have a ton of options. And I knew another guy who I respected very much, and he was a successful businessman. And I basically convinced him to invest in the business. And he tells to this day, he was like, Mark, he's like, I'm investing in you. Like that's the point. Like so it's another one of those things, right? Don't fuck this up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like my business partner, which is amazing. So he's really investing in us, but I know what he meant when he said that, right? And that's how it started. But someone sent me something this morning that I want to read to you. This is a
Sure.
guy who was a member um, at Anatomy when we first opened, and we had like no members, no members. So he said,
I mean, that's a lot. One of the things about anatomy, before you read that, you're talking about Miami. There's a lot. There's probably a different place opening up every week with
"Yeah, well,
with a
I'm
lot of
going to give
money.
you a stat. I'm going to give you a stat in a second that's
Yeah,
going to blow your mind,
yeah,
right?"
okay.
But there was no members at Anatomy. We had like a handful of members, and I don't know. I don't remember if it was like 15 or like 30, but that's not a lot. Okay, so we would sit there, and even our investor and the guy who believed in it, like he would walk in and go, "Oh, this sucks. There's no energy," and he'd walk over to Equinox, right? So he wrote this. He said, and it took years. Like we brought in a guy who's now a partner, who's guys. I can't even I describe it. His name is David. He's awesome. I always say this. He's very smart, but he's also a good dude, and he helped. He basically created our systems. Like I'm good with like fitness, trainers, like culture, team, environment, trying to do our best to make the right call with certain decisions, but we really do those things together. And he helped shift things big time. But so the guy came back after like 4 years and walked in, and he was there when it was empty. He said, "I just wanted to say how incredibly proud I am of you, Mark. I remember when you first opened." He said, "I was work training with you. I kept thinking, this is not looking very good. Then yesterday, as I walked in, I saw all the life and activity that was breathing that building. It made me feel alive." He said, "You're a special human being and you're incredibly blessed, but it comes as no surprise to see this. Your spirit radiates love, compassion, drive, and humility. Your contribution to this world and society as a whole is amazing. Don't ever stop what you're doing." And I was thinking, like, this guy is in recovery, by the way.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he's like, what I felt when I walked in those doors is exactly what I needed. And to see it, you go from a tired, you know, guy just running ragged to not just me, my
Yeah.
business partner, but to see what it is today. Like people don't want to hear the story. And what you were going to bring up before, not only there are a lot of trainers, but in South Florida, there are 7,229 gyms. Okay.
Yeah.
We've been number one gym for like 6 years.
And where else are you guys?
Where so we have one in Miami Beach in Sunset Harbor. We have one in Miami Beach inside the One Hotel, which is very large hotel space. We have one downtown Miami. We have one in Coconut Grove, Miami, and we just opened one up in Doral, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's West Miami.
Where the Doral
And,
Open is.
and what's that
There's a
now?
golf tournament there every year, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've come a long way, and every single person on the team, from the guy who's the business guy who's super smart, Randy, he's just awesome, and David is incredible. I mean, the guy, I mean, there's just a lot of great people involved. Like, we wouldn't be here without each person. I'm talking right down to Maxine, Leah, Jacqueline, like James, Andrew, Mason. Like, it's just like there's so many amazing human beings that whenever I walk in and I connect with Dawn, she's a GM at Midtown. By the way, she's from Boston. I see Lauren at South Beach. I see Michelle. Like, I'm like super impressed with these human beings. We got a guy, Eduardo, in Doral. He's like, every time I look at him, I'm like, this guy's awesome. He's a professional. He cares. He's hardworking. We have a thing, the Patriot way, right?
Yeah.
We have the anatomy way.
Okay.
I'm not so sure anyone even knows that, but that's where that stemmed from.
Yeah.
So, but the anatomy way simply means be your best, do your best, be a good person. Now we have core values written on the wall, but it's just be a good person. Our core values: do your best, be honest, serve others, work with passion, treat everyone with respect. But it's always be a good person. So if you, long and short, if you get lost with your decision making, you just ask yourself, was that your best? Are you being a good person? And we've had to tell people, look, do better. Like do better. Because it's not about us, and it's less about anatomy. It's more like you don't want to be
It's up to
that
you.
person.
Yeah.
Don't you want to be better? Like I said this the other day in a meeting. If you really care about what you do, you will always want to be better. Always. And if you stop wanting to be better, you can't be here. Can't, because we can all be better.
I'm going to wrap with this because we didn't talk about it yet. What did your mother write for you that you all the time you look at?
Yeah.
Like that, and that is something you leaned on heavily, and you shared with me and you shared with others. What is it? I just love people being able to walk away from this with that.
Well, thanks for bringing that up. But like my mom used to she started the whole quotes and motivation. Like she really did start that. She I could see when she was happy and proud of something, she would go, yeah. She'd get excited. And I was like, okay, mom, right?
Yeah.
But I realized she's got it like this. I didn't realize I had it like this, right? And it sparked certain things as I told you before, and I'm not mad at it, and it's okay. I can't really be the person I am all the time for obvious reasons. And I'm talking about the positive things, get
Yeah.
really excited,
You
show
have to
great.
stay measured.
I gotta be like this, right?
Yeah.
But my mom used to rip out all these little quotes and put them on our dresser drawer, and I have all these papers. I said, "What are you doing?" She's like, "You need to read them." So she put this piece of paper and she put it on the wall. It said, "If it's humanly possible, I know I can do it." Right? And I would look at that every day. And that's up at anatomy, but also when I was at the University of Richmond and I was failing school, I wasn't playing, I was depressed, Coach Reed wasn't there. And I told her on the phone, I was like, I was basically hoping she would say, you should come home, right? I was that pain part. All kids have it. But I was like, I really want to get out of here. It was just embarrassing. I was a bad student. I wasn't playing, it was very humbling. It's what I needed, but it was hard at that time. So she wrote me a letter after we got off that. My mother was big into writing letters. She wrote this letter and she's like, look, you can do it. I believe in you. Remember what we used to talk about when I was sitting at the edge of your bed? I believe in you. Dream big, never quit. And I remember she put a little Post-it on the letter, and I still have the Post-it, I have it framed. But when I read that letter, I don't know what it was, but she was like, you're going to be an honorable mention student. You're going to be an unbelievable football player. And she started to describe in the letter certain things that I had been through. And look at the way you lived and you grew up. And she's like, I'm just telling you that you have something extraordinary inside you that most people don't have. And she was basically saying, for you to put that out to the world is your mission. So you got to give it everything you have. And she says, it doesn't matter if you fail. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It just matters you got to empty the tank. She didn't use those words, but she was saying you just got to do your best, right? So I took that piece of paper and I basically carried that around everywhere with me. And I put it in my locker. You saw it.
Yeah, dream big and never quit. It was
Yeah. And I was like, so when I get up in the morning and it's super early, sometimes I do it in the house. Sometimes I stop at the edge of the walkway, the stairs, and I kind of look up and I'm like, it's corny, Pete, but it's far from over. Like I have a lot of work to do,
Hmm.
and I absolutely love what I do, and I love the people I do it with. And I'm like, I've never been more proud of the team and what we have and what we've worked for together. We've all done our parts, and it's like I know how blessed I am. I know how fortunate I am because I've worked very hard. Yeah, hard work, but there's also luck involved. And I know you create your luck, but consistency, habits, being dependable, bringing energy, being enthusiastic, like it's special, right? And I want to pay it forward to a lot of people. I see we have a bunch of kids that intern over the course of the year. By the way, Darren Thomas's son works for us.
No shit.
Yeah,
Our
I
trainer
had
from Richmond.
dinner with
Wow.
Darren and his son the other night.
Our strength
We have
coach.
awesome kids, bro.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Wild. It's
Yeah,
wild.
yeah. Mark, I love you, dude.
I
For you,
love you,
this is
man.
a master class, and I can't thank you enough for giving your time to me today and for putting this out in the universe. I think what you said really moves me too, because that's my mission, and I forget it, right? To help other people, to put it out, your mission. Like, what is your mission? My mission is to carry the message of what I've been through and how I'm on the other side. And you're doing the same. I mean, and that's all we have. And that's really all we can leave. People pass on, and we still have the things that they said, the things that they did. So you sharing that today, you're doing that. You're accomplishing that mission. So I love you, man. I thank you so much.
Hey, Pete, thank you so much. You've done an incredible job. And I tell people the Pete Sousa story several times a week. I swear I do. And I'm like, look, when I met you, you were like 6'6", 230, one of the top players in Philly, come out, and I'm like, oh my God, Coach Reed's telling us stories and Cullen, how you're going to make us better. And then you had this devastating blow, and I was thinking, you know what? I remember Coach Reed saying, you need to get close to this kid. You need to be nice to him. And I remember thinking, I don't need to be. I want to be because he's an extraordinary kid. He's a good person. He's got a good heart. He's got good character. He's one of us. Like you were one of us. And that, to me, that was the biggest compliment to another person. And I was thinking, like, I know that I'm going to be friends with him for the rest of his life because you're just like us. You were just like us.
You took
And
me
still
under
to
the
this
tent.
day.
I was in a tough spot, dude, and I still wrestle with a little bit of that. Like you guys were out there playing, and I wasn't, and I never processed any of that. Right when I was a kid, I was just drinking, using drugs, and whatever. Just and when I was alone, even when I was thinking straight, I didn't want to think about that. And you welcomed me under the tent, made me feel a part of, and that changed my life. So thanks, buddy.
So proud of you. Really, keep it going because I just know. By the way, we have Chris Fowler, who's a member of Anatomy.
Oh, no way.
Oh, I see him every day.
Yeah.
I talk to him all the time.
Oh, he's literally the best. He's literally the best. He's the best at what he does. Yeah.
And he, when I saw him at Anatomy, I said, you don't know me. I told him what I do at Anatomy, the whole thing, and he goes, I said, I have a story for you. I said, in 1999, I played in a college football all-star game called the Hula Bowl. And he started to laugh. And I said, I remember talking to you. And at the time, you were telling myself and Chris Brown, legendary kicker for the Texans, about, someone that you were dating and everything, who's now his wife.
Yeah.
Right. And we exchanged stories. And I'm like, I talk to Chris Fowler every day. And not only is he crazy fit,
oh,
he's
yeah,
one of the nicest guys ever. He's a great guy.
Well, he's the best. He's at the top of his craft. In my opinion, it's him and Joe Buck. Yeah. He's the best.
I'm going to tell him Pete Sousa's coming for you.
Yeah, I think he's all right. Yeah, I think he's safe.
Before we go, I have to plug Just a Kid from Fall River.
Absolutely.
By Randy West of Monarch Productions, who did an insane job with this documentary. Just a Kid from Fall River. You can get it on Amazon, as Pete said, or iTunes, or Apple. But this film was created not for me to pound my chest. It was created for kids and people who were trying to aspire to work to be something. That's what it's created for. And Randy's created a whole curriculum around it for kids. So check it out, and check out, I have to tell you about this because it took me so long to write it. Dream Big, Never Quit, the
Absolutely.
book. Obviously get that. And by the way, the Audible as well. That's my voice.
Wow.
Audible is what a painstaking process, but the Audible, we can get it on Audible, and you can get the book on Amazon. It's called Dream Big, Never Quit. So if you're interested in those things, please check them out.
And don't forget about the Megna Method too. Podcast, you can get it on all the platforms.
Yeah, the Megna Method. Pete was on it.
I was on it, yeah, which makes me feel very special and important. Yeah.
We got a whole new lineup of guests I'm going to have on, and my commitment to that is making sure that I don't give too much time to that, because I have a business to.
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. And I do it honestly, I do one a month. Mm-hmm. That's what I do.
Even that consistency is enough for people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
And all this stuff you just told, we'll put that in the show notes, and I'll send you a link to this when it's up.
Thanks so much, bro. You're amazing. Have an amazing weekend.
Thanks so much for listening to The Payoff with Pete. Once again, I'm Pete Souza. And of course, we are part of the Rogue Media Network. All kinds of good podcasts you can find at roguemedianetwork.com. And of course, you can find this podcast and all those other ones wherever you get your podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, other spots like that.
This has been a Rogue Media Network production.